Hello. Just pulling up our pattern real quick. And then we can get started. Okay. So today we're going to talk about supplies. So if you're needing help with what supplies to get, that's what today is for. So let's start with needles. That's the first item on the list. So you can really use any needle as long as you can thread it and it will work. But with embroidery, you really want to make sure that you have a needle that is not going to leave a hole behind. So something that is a little bit thinner, that's sharp enough to go through your fabric, stuff like that. So I like the DMC size 5 needles. I recently found out that I didn't realize it, but the eye of their needle, so the top part, they made them a little bit smaller. They've fixed it now, but the eye of the needle is this top part. I'm sorry, it's hard to focus, but they've changed it back to the larger eye, so they're easier to thread. But size 5 needle is my top favorite. It's very sharp. Since they fixed the eye of the needle, it has gotten a lot better. But the other options that I have in the suggested supply list is a size 22 chenille needle, which is a little bit shorter and a little bit blunter, but it has a larger eye. Oh, it's the same size as the embroidery needle. Is it the tapestry needle that's shorter? Hold on. Let me get out my size 24. I think the tapestry needle is what is shorter. Okay. Yes. The tapestry needle is a little bit shorter, not enough that it makes like a huge difference, but enough that you can tell. So if I line all of these up along the bottom, see, it's just like barely shorter, like just the tiniest bit. But the eye of the needle for the 22 and a 22 chenille needle and a 24 tapestry needle, the eyes are about the same. The chenille needle is a little bit bigger, but the tapestry needle and the chenille needle are a little bit blunter. And so sometimes I like the size 5 because it's really sharp. So if I'm using like a Kana cotton, I really like the sharp needle because it will punch holes really well through that fabric, especially if you're like doing a double layer, or if you're doing French knots. But there is different options out there depending on what you want. They usually come in packages like these. These are both DMC. This one's the Artiste brand. This is from Hobby Lobby. So there's tons of options. Use what you have or buy something new. Needles are really inexpensive. This was $2 for 6 of them. I don't know how much these were. Probably close to about the same, about $2. So you can also buy packs like these that have like sizes 3, 10, 9. The larger the number, the smaller the eye. So like a size 9 has a really, really small eye. It's really hard to thread if you're using more than like 1 or 2 strands. So there's that. Those are the size 3s and then 5, 7, 9. So that is needles. Use what you have. Get something new. I just realized I forgot to grab fabric. I wonder if I have some right here. Oh, I do. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about fabric. With embroidery, you want fabric that is not going to stretch. So like jersey is really hard to stitch on because it's so stretchy. It's not impossible, it's harder. So if you're just learning, I would recommend using a fabric with no stretch. So 100% cotton or linen, or a cotton linen blend. I really like Akana cotton. It's spelled Kona. It's just like a brand of cotton, and it's thick. It's really tightly woven. See how you can't really see through it? It's pretty thick. I mean, you can see like my shadow through it, but it's like really tightly woven. There's just the tiniest bit of stretch, but not enough that it's gonna be hard to stitch on. I really like both cotton and linen. This is a linen blend. But you see how you can like see through that? It's a little bit looser woven. So let me put them up side by side so you can see. You see how much tighter that one is? So I almost always will use cotton versus linen just because it's a little bit less expensive, and I just like it. But linen looks great. I'm stitching this, so it looks really nice. This is linen. It's pretty, it looks really good. You can also stitch on colored fabrics or printed fabrics or whatever. If you're using like a quilted cotton, it's usually or quilter's cotton, it's usually a little thinner. So I would recommend using 2 layers, either 2 layers of the same fabric if it's like a solid color, or if you're using like a print on the front, line it with something white or like a super light gray. Like this is just a really cheap quilter's cotton that I line stuff with it occasionally. So that way it will hold your threads a little bit easier, a little bit smoother. So tons of fabric options, cut up old sheets or whatever. There's lots of options. So, okay, so threads and embroidery floss. So I have 2 color palettes listed. They are DMC colors. DMC seems to be the easiest colors to find. Sorry, my son is over here watching a show, squeaking in his chair. But DMC is super easy to find, really inexpensive. They're usually about 70 cents, 80 cents each. So this is how DMC comes in a little skein like this. Usually there's an end up here and an end down here. You want to pull your thread from the number side. So like pulling it out like this, it won't not as easily if you pull it from the number end. So DMC, you can also, I know a lot of people use them. I don't love bobbins, but you can buy bobbins and take these off the skein and then put them on a bobbin. I don't like to do that. Let me find, when I have extra thread, I just wrap it around the middle. So then I can still use that, but I don't have to take it off the skein because I don't like to do that. So anyways, there's that. I've started to see anchor threads a lot. Anchor comes in, what is this called? A spool. I forgot the word. They come in spools. I've seen them at Joann's. I've seen them at Michael's. I haven't seen them at Hobby Lobby, at least not at mine. So their colors are different. Whoops. Their color numbers are different, but there's also a lot of conversion charts online. So if you have an easier time finding anchor threads and you want to use the color palettes that I provided, you can look up a conversion chart online, and then the numbers are on this side where it says anchor on this side. But it's the same thread, it's just in a spool. So it's still like the 6-stranded cotton. Anchor has better red options. They have different red options than DMC, not necessarily more, but different options. They have a few different shades that like DMC doesn't have. So I have a few of their reds, but other than that, I just don't want to start over another thread collection. So I don't have a whole bunch of this. I have boxes and boxes of DMC. Both work great. There's also Cosmo brand thread that is also really, really good. It is a little pricey though. Usually one skein, at least in town for me, we're pretty rural, so the local like quilt shop has Cosmo thread. They come like this and they're like $2, which is crazy. It's the same length, but it's like triple the cost. So it is really nice thread, but it seems to be a little bit pricier. So unless you're looking for a specific color, they do, some of their color variations are a little bit different. So sometimes like they have a color that's like an antique black. It's not quite black, but it's not gray. So it's really nice if you need like an antique black. So I do have some of that. But Cosmo's really great. I would, if you can, avoid like the cheap, you can buy a pack for like $1 and there's like 12 colors. I generally avoid those. They not really easily, they're a little bit rough. They're hard to pull through the fabric. They're not as smooth. So if you can avoid that, I would. But yeah, that is thread. We will talk more about like separating strands and stuff as we get stitching, so don't worry about that. All right, embroidery hoops. I have a lot to say about embroidery hoops. There is so many different options. Some are great, some are not as great. So let's, I was gonna grab, I wonder where it is. I was gonna grab one of the not so great plastic hoops. Okay. So the first option is always a bamboo hoop. Bamboo hoops are so easy to find. My Walmart carries them. I really like the Joanne brand ones. The loops and thread ones from Michaels are also really good. The cheap ones on Amazon are a little bit more difficult. The problem with them is that they sometimes don't come very round. They come a little bit oval, or they have gaps in the between the inner and the outer hoops. So with embroidery hoops, if you loosen this hardware, this one's on really tight, hold on. If you loosen this, then the inner hoop comes out. So with bamboo hoops, the biggest trick is to know where your center is, because when they're shaping them, they shape together. So if you move this, hold on one second, let me mark this. So I like to go in here and just mark the center on both sides of the inner hoop, just like a little bit of a line, so that I know where the center is, because if this gets off center, ooh. Well, this one's not too bad. Let me try somewhere else, hold on. This one's actually pretty good. But you can kind of see like there's a gap right here. There's kind of a gap like down here. It just doesn't hold the fabric as tight. It's a little bit harder to use the hoop, but sometimes there's also like an imprint up here where the center is. So if you forget to mark it, if you look right here, you can kind of see like that's where this hardware is. So if you are having gaps with your hoops, just check and make sure that it's centered again. The Joanne hoops seem to be a little bit better though, like the Joanne brand, not just necessarily at Joann's, but the Joanne brand. That's what this one is. They seem to be a little bit more round, and there's less problems with like gaps in between the hoops. So bamboo is great. They're really inexpensive. They're really easy to find. So that is a really good option. The next option, like a step up from the bamboo, is like a beechwood hoop. This is a beechwood hoop. It's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit better quality. The hardware is a little bit better quality. These are closer to like $4 or $5 each, depending on the size. But they just do the same thing. They loosen up here, and then the inner hoop comes out. I haven't had problems with these having gaps, even if this gets twisted or turned. They still usually fit together nicely. I still usually mark the center just because I'm used to doing it. But these are Beechwood, Frank Edmonds or Elbacy are the two brands that I have found I like best. There's tons of options though. So Beechwood is another option. There's also these like faux wood ones. So these are plastic. The inner hoop has like a groove in it. And then this is flexible. So like if you have an oval hoop, it can sit this way or it can sit this way. So these are plastic and flexible. And then these just kind of screw off and on. It's just decorative, like for hanging. But they are a little hard to get, like once you have fabric, they're a little hard to like get back onto the hoop. Especially the ovals. The ovals give me a lot of problems. So I really like framing in these, but stitching in them I do not like. They don't hold very tight. One of the things with embroidery is making sure that your fabric is tight so that you don't have like puckering and stuff around your stitches. So these are not great to stitch in. I know people do. Usually I would say if you're going to stitch in one of these to use 2 layers so that it'll hold a little bit tighter. But they're really nice to frame in. They look really pretty. I was gonna see if I had any. I don't have any right here that are framed in one of these, but they look really nice. And then the white is on the inside, so you don't see that. You just see the outer edge, and they look really pretty. So something I love to stitch in but not frame in are these plastic hoops. So these plastic hoops, they tighten and loosen really easy. They're plastic, so they're perfectly round. They have this groove on them. You can't see the inner, but so that fits on the inside. So it holds the fabric so tight. I love stitching in these. I think I have 2 sets. And then I write the size up here. So this is a 7-inch. But I have 5, 6, 7, 8. I might even have a 9-inch, but I know I at least have 2 of the 6-inch and 7-inch because I really like stitching in them. They hold everything tight. I don't have to readjust my fabric ever. It just holds really tight. The big thing with finding a good plastic hoop is making sure that it has that groove. If it's just like flat plastic on plastic, it's not gonna hold your fabric tight enough and your fabric will like slip while you're stitching and you'll have puckering, which is not, we don't want to do that. So good quality. This one is, it's either the Loops and Threads brand from Michaels or it's the Artiste brand from Hobby Lobby. I know I have both. I'm not sure which one this one is. The colors are not great. I know people have been making better colors. Like I've seen like dusty pink or like a really nice sage green ones. I do have a black one, but I'm not gonna frame anything in it because I like stitching in it. But there is better colors out there. Usually they're on Etsy. They're a little bit pricier though. These ones I think were like $3 or $4 each. And I think that the better colors are closer to like $7 each. So if you're wanting something like specific, like a specific color, I might try looking on Etsy for a plastic embroidery hoop. I would just check to make sure that they have that groove so that your fabric will not get loose while you're stitching. So that is another option. Last option I want to talk about are these auburn hoops. I love these. So I know that's backwards for you, but auburn hoops. So what it is this inner hoop is, it's really hard to pull. This is just a leather strap to pull this. This inner hoop is plastic and then it's solid wood. So it has like this groove. This frames so beautifully. It looks so good. This is just a natural wood, so it can be stained or stay this way. I like the natural wood, so I don't stain them, but they're kind of hard to get your fabric in there. So like to push this in is really hard. But once it's in there, it's really, really tight. So usually if I'm using these, if I'm going to frame in one of these, I usually stitch in it and then I don't ever take it out because I have a really hard time getting it centered. So once it's in there, I find the center and then I start stitching. I do not take them out. Once it's in here and it's not coming out. So they're really beautiful. They come oval, round. I think she has a hexagon one. She used to. There's like square frames that have just the round in the center. Anyways, so many beautiful options that come stained or natural. So, or you can stain it yourself. But anyways, that's an auburn hoop. They're really, really nice. Okay, I think that's all I have to say about hoops. What, buddy?
I ate it all.
You ate it all? Okay, good job. Lost my train of thought. Okay, hoops, we're done. Okay, scissors. You can use any scissors. You can use a seam ripper. I'm trying to find my cup of, oh, it's behind my water bottle. My cup of supplies. You could use a seam ripper, one of these. You can buy fancy embroidery scissors. You could use regular scissors. You just need something that'll cut your thread. So these are embroidery scissors. They are not fancy. They were like $2. But I really love fancy embroidery scissors. I have so many. I will get them out and show you. So this one's a unicorn one my husband gave me for Valentine's Day. I have fancy ones. I have flower ones. I have these cute things. I have these cute ones. I have more fancy ones. Anyways, embroidery scissors are really fun. The big thing is that they're really sharp, and so they'll cut your threads really easily. The blades are small, so they're easy to control. But I mean, I have several of these as well that I like just as much. They're big in comparison. So the blades are bigger. So I will cut fabric with these as well. But there is tons of options. Don't feel like you need to spend, I mean, I think these were like $13 or something. You don't need to spend $13 if you don't want to. You totally can, they're fun. These ones I think were from Hobby Lobby. They were like $5. Anyways, lots of options, and then you can keep them. I keep mine in my Beck Stitches little tin. Anyways, so that's something fun. But any scissors that you have that will cut thread will do. You don't need anything fancy if you don't want to do something fancy. Okay, so fabric pens, pencil, or marker. You need something to draw your pattern on your fabric. So I have a lot of different options right here in my drawer. Sorry, just gonna get this out real quick. I don't use these ones very often, so. Okay, so my top option is the Pilot Friction markers, these fine liner markers. I know it's backwards too, I'm sorry. So how these work is they are heat erasable. This is like a rubber piece. So when you're drawing on paper, then you use the rubber part to like erase it, and it causes heat with friction, and so it erases them. Pilot also makes pens. I like the clicking pens best, but they also make stick pens. I believe they just started making gel pens as well, which I haven't tried them. I need to, but I haven't yet. So, but these are my favorite. I really like the markers. They come in lots of colors, but there's a purple one right here somewhere. Oh, there it is. They come in tons of colors. I usually stick with the dark colors. There's a dark blue, purple, black. Those are usually what I use. My kids use these. I have found that the lighter colors, there's like an orange, There's like a lime green. They don't come off the fabric as well, or they're not hidden as well. So it's like a chemical reaction that erases the ink with friction. So it leaves behind a ghost line. So these are not perfect, but they work really well on white fabric especially. And as long as you're not like drawing crazy things, as long as you're stitching over your lines, especially on white, you're not gonna have a problem. The problem comes with different colored fabrics, or if you're not stitching over the lines that you're drawing. So usually when I'm drawing a pattern, I draw the least amount of things as possible. So I tend to freehand a little bit just because I don't want to have a problem with like ghost lines coming back. So these are great. The pens are great. And then I erase, since they're like heat erasable, I erase with a blow dryer or an iron. Same with the pens, they erase the same way. Another option for heat erasable are these cute things. Look how cute. There's tons of little animals. Look how adorable. They come in a little pack. They are cute. So same thing, they're heat erasable, and they have a really fine tip. I want to say they're 0.5. Let's see if they say on them. 0.35 millimeters. So it's smaller than a 0.5. Like they're really little. They're blue or black ink. Same thing, they can leave ghost lines, but generally I don't have a problem. So these are great. I use them a lot. Another option are these gel pens. If you take this off, it'll start to dry out, and I don't use them very often. So there's white, there's blue, there's black. These are heat erasable as well. So I use the white ones if I'm using a dark fabric, which I don't do very often. They also leave ghost lines, but kind of the same thing, just making sure you're stitching over your lines. So I have all of these linked in a highlight called supplies. So if you go to my profile, there's a link for supplies. So you can find them there if you want them. Another option for lighter fabrics would be a chalk mechanical pencil. Where is my chalk mechanical pencil? I think it's in my backpack, hold on. Yes. So it's a mechanical pencil, but instead of lead, it has chalk. So it's like a white chalk pencil. This one's Fons and Porter. There's also Boheen brand, I think is the name. But the lead comes just like regular mechanical lead, but it's chalk. So that's great for darker fabrics. I have a problem with it, with getting the chalk off. So it's not my favorite option, but I know people that use it and love it, especially if they're doing like a full coverage piece. So these are really nice. They're super easy to use. I think this was like $7 or something. There's also like water soluble marking pencils. So like in the quilting section that says water soluble. So if you don't want to do the heat erasable and worry about ghost lines, you can do a water soluble option. So you can use pencils. There's markers. They're usually blue or purple, and then they just wash away. I personally don't like getting my embroidery wet, and so I don't like water soluble, but I have used them in the past and they work really well. I don't like to get my stuff wet, so I avoid them. But the markers, they look similar to these, but they're blue or purple, and then you get it wet and it washes away. So water soluble is another option. You can also just use a regular pencil. If you're gonna use a regular pencil, I would make sure that you're using a very sharp, like regular pencil, or you're using like a really fine lead mechanical pencil. This one's 0.7. I would try to use a 0.5. These lines will not erase. Once you draw on your fabric, you're not going to be able to erase it unless you like wash it and scrub it, which who wants to do that with their embroidery? I don't. So if you're going to use a pencil, draw lightly and just know that it's not going to erase. So make sure that you stitch over the whole thing. I think that's all I have to say. Yes. Okay. So if you have supply questions, let me know. You can look at my highlight. All of it is like Amazon links. But you can find most things on Etsy as well, or some people have supplies that they sell. Like some people have like a storefront with supplies, like their favorite supplies. I don't have that. But some people do. So, oh, I was going to talk about needle minders. It's not on the list because it's 100% not necessary. But if you're enjoying embroidery and you plan on doing it a lot, needle minders are a really fun way to have your needle for your project close by. So let me show you. So this is a needle minder. It has a magnet, 2 magnets, one on front, one on back. So they magnet together. So what you do is you put the front right there and then the back magnet here. So then this is stuck to your project. I mean, it moves around. It's just a magnet. But then it holds your needle for you. Like that, just sticks right to it so it doesn't get lost. I know a lot of people will just put their needle in their fabric and it'll hold it fine. But needle minders are cute and they are fun. So this one is from Beck Stitches. It's just some little threads. She has a new one coming out that's like an embroidery hoop. I have a ton of them. Along with my scissors, I collect needle minders. So I have this floral one. I have another one from Beck Stitches that says Luke's from Gilmore Girls. I have this cute one that says Stitch and Flick. Little Harry Potter fun. Another one from Beck Stitches. Do I like her needle minders? Yes, I do. But these sunflower ones are cute. So there's tons of options. Like so many, your head will explode if you go on Etsy and search needle minder. There's 10 billion options. So anyways, just kind of a fun way to hold on to your needle. Totally unnecessary, but super fun to have. Sometimes I will also just like stick it to my hardware. Like if I don't have room on my project to put it, then I just stick it to my hardware and it'll just hang out there. So, anyways, totally unnecessary, but super fun to have. So anyways, all right, that is all I have to say about supplies. So let me know if you have questions and I will find a day next week and we will go over how to transfer your pattern. I want to make sure that the people that bought kits have their kit before I do that. So sometime next week, probably about the same time, Wednesday, Thursday. I usually go live at like 1 in the afternoon instead of 11, but my kids are on early out this week, so I couldn't go live at 1 because I picked them up at 1:30. So anyways, I will see you later, and yeah, get your supplies. Get ready.